guys, welcome to Tampa Talk, and today we're talking to Cassandra Till. Cassandra is a physical education teacher and coach who has worked with female athletes for 15 years. She believes that any female who moves their body should consider themselves as an athlete and should learn how to eat, move, and flow like one. And learning about your unique physiology is the first step into achieving this. Hi, Cassandra.
Hi,
I,
Valerie.
I tried to do my best there.
Yeah, I loved it. You nailed it.
Yeah. So I really wanted to learn more about how you ended up in the Philippines and learn more about yourself and like the personal path that led you to doing what you're doing. So maybe like a quick introduction from your side as well.
So, yeah, just going off of what you just said, I've been a PE teacher for many years now. I was always an active adolescent, active person growing up. So always been involved in movement and sport. And so it was kind of a natural progression for me to end up working as a PE teacher. And then one of the reasons why I decided to get into teaching was mostly because I love sport and I wanted to be around young people and kind of educating them and inspiring them to move more. But I also really love travel, and they kind of blend themselves really well because being a teacher, you have the opportunities to work in international schools and to travel in your multitude of holidays that we get as well. So I did a few years working in London, then went across to Spain for a few years, came back, did a little bit of time in the Middle East, and now have ended up in the Philippines, which I am really, really enjoying. I love Southeast Asia. I've travelled here quite a lot, and I just love the culture here in the Philippines. I love the warmth of the people and the opportunities that it provides. I remember having a conversation with somebody when I first got here, and a Filipino who'd lived in Australia for many years, and I was like, how come you came back? He was like, there's so many opportunities, like the Philippines and Manila is such a new city in so many ways, and this is a great time to be here, to be able to put projects into place and make things happen. So I think all of those together means I really enjoy being here.
Very interesting. So when you're saying you love sport and you're into sports for such a long time, is there any specific sport, or you're just the sport in general?
When I was younger, I played a lot of team games. I think kind of that traditional route of when you're at school. I played in the netball team. I played hockey. I ran track.
Oh, I love hockey.
Oh, see, I used to hate hockey at school, but I was like the student at school that just really enjoyed sport. And so if they ever needed anyone to play, they were like, "Oh, Cassandra will jump on and play on the team." But as I got older, and then obviously with time constraints like working, playing competitive sport or organised sport in a team is becomes more and more challenging. And so as I've got older, I've got more into fitness, doing weightlifting. I did a lot of running in my kind of late 20s, early 30s. I got into endurance running just for like recreational purposes. So I ran a few marathons.
Oh, wow.
And for me, like that really running gave me a real sense of like de-stress.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like my time, my kind of like meditation time.
Oh yeah, that's definitely is like a meditation. I've read a beautiful book on Osho and like all about the meditation, and he talks about like all the ways of. Sorry, I just have messages coming through. So I kind of got all these insights on the moving meditation, which is really interesting because you can actually meditate while washing your dishes, and running was one of the best ways to do so. And the most interesting thing an insight that I kind of took for myself is when I'm running, I'm not concentrating on any thought, and I kind of let it flow through my head.
Yeah.
And this is how like you're getting in sync with all the thoughts, and you're organizing it, because brain does it for us once we just let it flow. And I think running is it's very interesting. And
for me, I wanted to do a marathon before I hit 30, and I didn't. And then I signed up for one, and I was like, right, you've got to start running. Hated endurance running when I was at school, but kind of got into it because I wanted to had this goal and this achievement. But then, I would leave work and I would run home, and I'd be running for like half an hour or 45 minutes. In the first like 10, 15 minutes, you'd be like really tense and thinking about what happened at work and all the things you've got to do. But then by the time I got home, it was like all of that was gone. and you could then like fully relax for the evening, or just have that mental separation from work and everything you were doing there. So it really started off as that was kind of it was a real link to mental health. And when we talk about kind of my journey to getting to where I am now with the Female Athlete Development Program, yeah, going back and looking on it now, there was some other kind of, I guess, like red flags and trigger points that I should have been aware of. But
so you're saying that you came out with FAD while running?
well, no, yeah, running gave me FAD. No, that program kind of came up when I came here to the Philippines. But
yeah.
I think when I look back on that time, I considered myself a really healthy person and fit, because I ran everywhere and I could run for a really long distance, and I looked a certain way.
You were ticking all the standards, right?
Check. Yeah, I looked, I looked this way, I looked a certain way, I was running marathons, people were like, well done, you're working really hard and you're training really hard and you look really good, and like, so I was like, right, I'm doing really well.
But did it feel good?
Yeah, I mean, at the time when you're getting all of this like external recognition and praise, but then knowing what I know now about, menstrual health and physical health and just mental health as a female, there was some quite serious like red flags that were happening. And yeah, it's just like we were talking earlier about, you don't know what you don't know. And so I didn't know that there was anything wrong at that time until, maybe like 5-6 years later.
And it's like a big thing, like how do we know what we should know, like being a female, and where do we get this information? So I find it beautiful when females have leading organizations that are actually educating other females on how to live the life being a female, and understanding ourselves as females, and syncing with the cycle. So tell me more about how you started FAD and how you guys what inspired the idea, what inspires the idea still, and what is the main objection and goal? Like how like if a person doesn't know about what you do, like what would you say, like mainly?
So actually, just going off of something you just said about how do we know what we should do unless somebody tells us? Like, that's true of anything. Like, how do you know how to train? How do you know how to read a book? How do you know how to get on a bus? How do you know how to get on an aeroplane unless somebody teaches and educates you how to do that? And, I grew up as an athlete, playing sport, doing all these active things, and all the information that I got, from, my teachers, my coaches, the books I read, the courses I went on, was all based on male participants. So if you look at a lot of the research that we get, it's based on men aged between about 20 to 25, like college-age men or younger, like 18 to 25. And so the way that we respond to exercise, the way that we respond to certain nutrients and diet and nutrition is all very different. Because the main thing that separates males and females biologically is that females menstruate and men don't. And so the hormone system of a man is
completely
flat. There's they wake up in the morning, they have a spike in testosterone and cortisol, and they're like, okay, cool, I'm getting up, I'm going to start my day. They go about their day, they then start to get tired, they go to sleep, and that's it. That's
their cycle is one day.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, us, it's
exactly.
Yeah.
So we all know, we get taught by this infradian rhythm, and we know that you should go to sleep when it's dark because that helps your body sleep, and all these things that we've been told. But the difference is that we have that's our circadian rhythm. There's 24-hour circadian rhythm, and then females, we work off of this infradian rhythm, which is our menstrual cycle.
So talk about this more for people that are watching us and they don't know really how does the cycle work in general, and like with regards to the hormones. Obviously, like if you are structuring the workouts around the cycle, what are the main
the main takeaways from it. So this is really what then started female athlete development. That I went to a strength and conditioning conference, went to participate in a session that was called Train Like a Girl, and I was like, oh, I've heard all this before, I'm sure I know all of this, but I'm going to go anyway. And then it was like, here's your menstrual cycle, here's how it affects your training. And it's like all this information that I had that I thought I knew so much about, and I was telling loads of people about, being this advocate for like female athletes, was wrong. And it's actually really simple. Like when you start learning about this, and anybody who does get involved in educating themselves on this, and I highly recommend you do, male or female, you will fall down a rabbit hole of information, and you think that there's all these things you should be doing. And the basics are that your menstrual cycle can range from anything to like mid-20s to like mid-30s in terms of days of the cycle. So you could have a cycle that maybe is like 26 days. Some people it's up to like 35. So that's individual to start off with. But the first half of your cycle, so your cycle starts on the first day of your period, your hormone levels, and the main hormones that we talk about in your menstrual cycle are estrogen and progesterone. So those hormone levels are at their lowest in your period. That they then gradually increase. So estrogen gradually increases to halfway through your cycle, which is when you ovulate.
This is when we feel the best.
Exactly. So from your period up until ovulation, this is like your kind of like high energy power zone. Like this is when you're going to do the most like high intensity training, make the most of doing strength training. We're more productive. We feel more confident. Like if you think like ovulation is linked with the purpose of ovulation is fertility and for you to get pregnant. So it makes sense that, if we take us back to our like very basic natural form as mammals, like that's when we want to look more attractive to a potential mate, and so we feel better about ourselves.
I love like when I'm ovulating, like in terms of productivity for myself, and like in business in general. Like I think this is the time when you want to talk to people, present, be your active self, go out, show yourself, versus like when I'm menstruating, okay, I'm just gonna like wrap in the blanket or go into the researching, maybe like some emails or something like this. Like productivity is another level, like angle that you can look into the menstruation apart from
like this isn't just relevant to people who are interested in improving their training. Like this is just like a life hack, like in general, just to live better and feel better about yourself. So you've got the first half of your cycle, the follicular phase, where this is your high energy level, and then around ovulation there's a huge shift in the hormones, and you kind of move into your more of a like calming, relaxing state of your cycle. So your hormones then shift. There's a slight dip in estrogen, and then progesterone becomes a more dominant hormone. And so progesterone is like like I talk about like estrogen and progesterone is like two friends you might have. Like estrogen is like, let's go lift weights, let's go training, let's go to the theme park and ride a roller coaster. Like that's your estrogen. And then progesterone is like, let's go and have a chai latte and do some yoga and some meditation. And you need friends like that in your life. You need both. And there's times when you need your calming friend. And so, second half of your cycle, the luteal phase, your body's starting to get ready for either pregnancy or your next period. And so, things should start to kind of like pull back and relax and calm. And then, the couple of days before your period or the week before, is really when you need to deload if you're doing any training. So reduce your intensity of movement. Your body's better at more endurance activity. So like that's when you're going to go for like a longer jog. Like that's your meditative running time. And then really like that time leading up to your period is when you should be like relaxing. Like your body's in a state of inflammation. That your metabolism is sped up, so you're more hungry. And I think the biggest mistake that we've made throughout our entire lives is that we fight against that. Like, I don't want to feel tired. I need to be productive. I need to be, making that meeting. I need to be
guilty.
I need to be going to the gym. And like from a training point of view, like there's actually research that shows if you train. So they took two control groups. First one did the exact same amount of training, regardless of where they were on their period. Say like 3 times a week strength training in all of the phases of their cycle. Then took another group who trained 3 times a week the first half, and then in the second half of the cycle they trained less and reduced the intensity. The group that trained less in the second half of the cycle got stronger.
Okay.
Because
this is what people who are not taking into account this cycle, trainers and athletes themselves this is what they're doing wrong.
Yeah, exactly. So if you, it depends where you are at in terms of your level of your involvement in sport or movement. Like if we just take it to, your everyday person who just wants to move to feel good, and to feel healthy and feel better. So the type of movement that you're going to do in the first half of your cycle is going to be more high intensity, high energy. It's when you're going to do your HIIT training. Yeah. If you're into CrossFit, that's when you're going to do more Metcon style workouts, more strength training, and like really push yourself, because you're going to have more energy. Your recovery rates are going to be better. In the second half of your cycle, pull back on strength training, work more on endurance stuff, because you actually end up breaking down muscle if you push yourself too hard in the second half. So it can have the opposite effect.
Yeah, when you're losing the muscle.
Yeah, exactly. And just in terms of like feeling good when you're moving, like we're told so often, just like push through the tiredness. And I've done it so many times when I was training for running. I talked about how now if I knew what I knew now then, I wouldn't be like putting in my my interval training, my really hard sessions the week before my period. I remember a horrific training session, it was the last run I did before my first marathon, and I went out running with my best friend's boyfriend, and we were doing like an 18-mile run, and I got my period like during the run, and I was like, it was horrific, and I didn't feel like I could tell him. I felt sick. I just like back pain, nausea. It was awful, and I was like, I didn't even know my period was coming.
Wait, was there like a story about this famous runner? She got a period
and kept on running,
and she bled, and then all the tabloids kind of like posted about her. And my opinion was like, whether it's a protest or whether it's like a sign, a sort of like an act of freedom. That's an interesting point, right? Like, would you stop running like if you're getting a period?
And and it comes back to this like point about period shame, and I bet if it was an athlete that didn't stop and ended up like pooing themselves when they were running, they'd be like, wow, so dedicated, they like didn't stop to go to the toilet. But then a woman runs when they're on their period, and it's like it's a taboo thing to say.
No, that's extreme. Like, but in the researches, when we were conducting researches for tampon, I realized that 80% of females who are getting the period, they don't even know about the periods. Although they have sisters all over the world, they have sisters, mothers. Nobody even tell them, okay, girl, there's going to be a time you're going to bleed, but that's okay.
Yeah.
It's, again, you said it's a sign of you being healthy. It's part of your reproductive system. It's part of you being a woman.
Yeah.
And then they go on, they hide, they don't know what it is, they get scared, they skip school, and there's like lots of, like especially in the third world countries, or like, where like in Africa especially, where, I think that's lack of education, and also part of like all the period shame, where people are skipping schools, and it's really contributing to the whole aspect of, when are we as females going to be speaking about periods freely, right?
Yeah.
And I guess like this is why we're here.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's, we are getting there. There's, steps are being made, and there's more things that are coming out in the media about, this topic of cycle syncing and training around your cycle, and just, athletes speaking about it. And we are, as a world, as a society, we are taking steps in the right direction. But I would love to live in a space where it isn't just women who are talking freely about periods, that, men can as well. Like, if you look at the number of female coaches that are out there, like, it's significantly less than male coaches. Like, even in the school that I work in, the higher level, the varsity athletes, a lot of them are male coaches, and they need to have the understanding, the education, and the confidence to be able to talk about this stuff with their athletes, because it's really important. It's like a basic acknowledgement of how to train your body, and it's more than just an athlete coming in and saying to you, I'm on my period today, can I train less, can I just like pull it back a little bit. And that's a good, as I said, that is a baby step in the right direction. But actually, judging, like, coming from a physiological standpoint, being on your period, there's zero reason why you shouldn't train. It's actually one of the best times to train, because your hormone levels are at their lowest. but then it's getting that balance of like, okay, but if you've got really bad menstrual cramps and you're really tired and fatigued and you're bleeding, maybe you do want to pull it back a little bit. But then having the education and know how to say, okay, here's some things you can do so that you don't feel this bad when you are on your period. And it just comes down to this education being accessible and people being encouraged to learn about it, like not just as a female, but as a male, and as you don't have to be an elite athlete to know this. You should be learning this from when you get your period and before, like preparing yourself to understand why this is happening and why it's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, this is going like really deep into the topic of like how really properly do sports if you're a female, because I know that a massive mistake people are actually making, like training without any stretching at all, like not even taking into account that the muscles actually has to stretch to kind of like develop itself. So that's an interesting thing. And I've learned a lot through, because I'm also like lifting weights, but I'm also doing yoga, and I've learned a lot with balancing out the trainings with the stretching. And I like it's mental to think how many people are ignoring the fact that we can tie up our lives to the cycle, and syncing our life with the cycle can actually lead you to a healthy lifestyle, and you can avoid so many complications. And it's crazy to think how all these misconceptions around the world are really based on males, and like we're just going ahead with this and adapting our lives to how we think it's supposed to be. And it's a big mistake, which leads that you said, which like we were speaking previously, you said it can lead to problems, terrible PMS or pains, and then indicate ourselves as as a health issue.
Of course, and we don't. I think another thing that is kind of being brought up, I know in Spain they've just released that they've passed something that you can have days
3 days
sick
3 days
for menstrual symptoms. Like, that's a huge step in the right direction, because I remember like growing up just having the most horrific period pains, and then
so you would say like you would implement it here in the Philippines?
I mean, it's if you could come. I mean, gosh, now it's like if you sneeze, it's like go home. And so,
oh no,
why? If
COVID is a game changer.
Yeah, but if you're coming into work and something is severely affecting your productivity levels, and and if rest, like if your body feels really tired, this is men or women. If your body is tired, it's telling you you've got to slow down. Like, our bodies are they have managed, we've survived evolution, like we've survived all this stuff. Like, if our body's telling us stuff, like we've got to listen to it. We're just conditioned to be like, do more, be more, achieve more the whole time. And actually, sometimes doing less is going to end up giving you greater output in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, there are days when I'm feeling like I can do 10 times more tasks than ever, and sometimes like I just feel like I need to lay down. But again, like if your body is telling you to rest, and like if your body is tired all the time, again, it's not like a good,
it's not normal,
good sign.
It's not functioning as well as as it should be. Like, we're pretty robust creatures, and we put our bodies through a lot, but we don't listen to it enough. And I think that's actually a term that gets thrown around a lot. And like, listen to your body, and it's like, okay, I'm listening, but if you don't understand what it's telling you, like, what can you do with it? Like,
I mean, what are the what are the main tips that you would say are relevant for avoiding like bad PMS and bad like cramps?
Yeah.
Because I've learned that, for example, I was shocked to know that whoever has a period pain, like bad cramps and all that, I was shocked to know that actually what can help you is just a simple fasting, avoiding red meat, going heavy on veggies and fruits, like 3 days before your period, and it's gonna be life changing. And it actually, a lady who I spoke to, Donna, she leads like a menstrual education here in the Philippines. She was like, "Yeah, it was life changing. Like, I'm just saying, hey guys, it's just fruits and veggies. That's it. That's all we see."
There's, I mean, the first thing I would say, and the easiest thing you can do, is just to track your cycle. and just take note of energy levels, productivity levels, and any symptoms you're getting. So whether that is headaches or pain or like excessive levels of fatigue, like irritability, like mood changes, and just take note of it. Say like 3 months, just know when you are feeling in certain ways. And that is a huge step. If you know that, like I know for me, I actually don't feel that bad for my period. For me, I get more, I'm more symptomatic around ovulation. I get like ovulation pains, I can get headaches.
Oh, really?
And so I know, like when I start ovulating, I'm like, okay, in the next couple of days, I'll only last like maybe 2 days, I feel a bit flat. And then I know I'll feel better after that. And then also just knowing when your period is coming, just for practicality, like making sure you've got like tampons with you, and knowing particularly if you are an active person, like that you've got things ready to go, and so that's just the biggest step that you can take. And then from that you then start learning about when your symptoms are. Like for me, I know that I'm more symptomatic around my around ovulation, so there's certain food groups that you can eat, like you were saying, like magnesium is very good at helping to like flush out those estrogen levels, which the elevated levels are what cause headaches. I know that avoiding like coffee and red wine leading up to your period can really help with symptoms as well, which is all I want to do when I'm like PMSing, is drink wine and drink coffee. But it's like just knowing those a few little tips, and then going with the natural flow of your body. So I think it's also really important to know that like everyone is different. So like your cycle, your symptoms are going to be different. The length of your cycle is going to be different. How your body responds to your hormone levels is going to be different to me. Like when your body's telling you to push, go for it. Like push it. When it's telling you to rest, and knowing what those signs are for rest, then you pull back. And you can get as much into it as you want. Like when I first started learning about this, I got a little bit, I think, sometimes, when you get so focused and into something, then it actually holds you back a little bit. Like, there's books that certain foods that you should eat in each phase of your cycle, and different nuts are good to eat in this part and not so good to eat in this part of your cycle, and being really strict with my training. And then in like typical fashion, I then became like too regimented and too restricted with it. And it was like, oh God, I should be lifting weights today because it's 2 days before ovulation, and then you end up giving yourself a harder time and so I think it's just fine. Everyone will find their level that they want to get into it, and then just relaxing into that. Like now I kind of know my body so well that I'll go through, I might track quite strict for a couple of months and like write down my symptoms as things change in my lifestyle, like things change in my job, and then I'm like, okay, I know what's happening with my body now, so then I'm not as strict with it. I just kind of like, I know like certain symptoms, what that means for me.
We've been talking about how the whole thing really started.
So the Female Athlete Development Program.
Because it started like a club first.
Club at school. It actually started off, it was called Strong Girls Club, and I wanted to get more of our athletes doing strength training. So that was the first club, the first kind of like weekly club that I did. And then when the pandemic hit and school stopped, and I was actually back home in the UK at the time, and then I had really had a bit more time to research this stuff and learn about it, and then it kind of developed into the Female Athlete Development Program, because it's based on female athletes and their development into either sport or movement or just feeling better about themselves. So it was a weekly club. I would give them a little like 5-10 minute bit of information. Sometimes I would talk to them about like educate them on their menstrual cycle. Sometimes we'd have a chat about things. It had like different forms, and then there would be a strength session that followed it. And then I've done some like peer education stuff with the teachers and the coaches I work with at school. And then we held a conference in May last year where I had the athletes that I worked with actually led some sessions, and that was like one of the proudest moments of my career. Was like these, I had about 4 or 5 of them that were speaking to. We had a huge audience. It was all on Zoom, but these 5 adolescent athletes speaking to a room full of majority of the men, and telling them about, look, this is my body, this is my physiology, and this is how you can basically coach me better.
Exactly.
And it was
That's
phenomenal.
such a great approach,
Yeah.
because mostly statistics show that the bullying comes from the boyfriends, and like men are the ones who don't even know how the whole like period.
Yeah.
What are the pads? What are the tampons?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I mean, it's really important to educate men as well as females,
Yeah,
and
of
it's great
course.
that they're actually attending those conferences.
Yeah, no, and the need and the want is definitely there. But yeah, it's twofold. It's like I think we just live in a society where I'm going to sit down and I'm going to give you all this information and then I'm going to go and apply it. And actually, like, we know that in education, it's a two-way thing. Like, learning is a two-way platform. Like, I'm going to give you information as your teacher, but you're going to feed back and tell me like what's working for you. And I just think that this male coaches and coaches in general don't need to be scared of this, because if we've done our job right and the athletes know what's going on, they can, turn up to their sessions and be like, okay, this is what I need a little bit more now. Like, I've worked with my coaches just at the gym, where I'm like, okay, like, this is what I need today. And I don't need to go and be like, hey, it's like day 7 of my period, or I'm about to get my period in 3 days, because, that some people may feel comfortable talking about that, but you don't need that much information. All you need to know is to be like, I'm not going to be able to lift as heavy today, so let's pull back the weight and let's work on some more mobility. And it just makes things so much easier. You're getting exactly what you need.
Interesting. Like if you put that knowledge just into life, not just into the training, like you can really change the way you live and the way you achieve things. That's good. Yeah, it's really good. Like thing, like don't push yourself too much. Like I gotta learn that.
Oh yeah, and it's really hard, and I have to check myself all the time, and I think that you get it wrong, even when you're somebody who's supposed to be really educated on it. Like, we get it wrong sometimes, and that's okay. Like, it's another big part of it, isn't it? Teaching yourself forgiveness.
Yeah, no, for sure. I wanted to to know about, let's say, like 5 things that get you, because like obviously, like we as a Tampa gang, we wake up every morning and we're brainstorming how we're gonna promote the right feminine hygiene care in the Philippines, which is sustainable, which is not causing any physical issues like fungal infections that are prompt to being developed, like when you're using pads which are like plastic infused, and like they're not natural, versus like having a 100% organic cotton sustainable product, and also like internal, which actually scares a lot of people. And then we're getting into the next step, how we're going to be educating our audience and all that. Like, this is something that inspires us as a team, and we're looking around and we're understanding that it's not enough sources for that. And this is actually part of why we're doing Tampa Talk as well. And we're very grateful to have, for example, you as a guest who has so much knowledge on the topics of womanhood and the periods. And like I was really like curious, what keeps you inspired, what makes you, even like from a personal perspective, like why do you wake up every morning, and what kind of things like really brings you focus?
I think for me it's, like you said, coming back to like your core values and your purpose. And whether it's when I'm being like PE teacher, or whether it's when I'm being a female athlete coach, like it brings back to, I want young people, and all people actually, to just enjoy moving. Like, when like the proudest moment, like hands down the proudest moment of my career, was when we held the Female Athlete Development Conference, and I had these girls standing up and speaking to people as like educated athletes and telling them what they needed. And I was like, I always come back to that. I'm like, educate them. It's not about me. It's not like, this is amazing. Like, I love being able to come and talk about this stuff, and I get really excited about it because it meant so much to me as an athlete. But actually, when I see other females like really enjoying like lifting weights and feeling good about themselves regardless of their aesthetics, they're not training because they want to have a tight bum and 6-pack abs. They're training because it makes them feel empowered, and they understand their body and they feel good about it. Like, that's to me what inspires me to keep going with it. Like, this year in particular has been, I think there's been so many changes. Like, you know, we came out, we had so much time coming out of the pandemic, like that was hard, and we're still in it, like, and it's been slow moving.
Were you able to train during the pandemic?
I mean, funnily enough, I speak to some of my friends about this, and because we did everything online, you know, I was training like some of my, but like the most I was, because I was leading all these sessions, and we couldn't do anything else. And so I was able to train, but it was just at home. And then now, since like coming back to work and you know, things kind of like going back to normal, like that time is gone, and I haven't dedicated as much time as I wanted to this past year. And we're coming to the end of the school year now, and so I've been reflecting on things that we've done. And I was actually looking through some of the work that I've done over the last couple of years, and I was like, oh my God, like I love doing this, and I love talking about it, and that's it. Like, just refocus on that. And you know, you do hard things, and I'm working on a project at the moment with another friend who's based in the UK, and it's really hard, and there's so much work to do, and you're like, why are we doing this? And you know, we're trying to meet, and it's like 11 o'clock in the morning for her, and it's like 6, 7 o'clock in the evening for me. She's really energized, I'm really tired, and I'm like, why are we doing this, Kat? And it's like, actually, no, because it's, you know, it's worthwhile, and people are going to be interested in it, and it's going to make them feel better. Yeah. Like, and that's kind of, you know, why I do what we do.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. So like when you were saying that they were giving the conference, I was just curious, like what are the questions that you're getting from your athletes? Like what sort of like what's do you have like some sort of controversial things popping up, or like do you recall like any crazy thing that you had to like sort of reveal, or?
No, one of the biggest questions that we get is, can I make athletes train on their period? And I'm like, we can never make anyone do anything, like whether they're on their period or not. But can you encourage them? Is there a reason why they can't? No, like it's actually a really good time to train. So that's normally like the biggest question that I get. It's, you know what, somebody said something. I put in a question to the group. I was like, all right, tell me how your period is your superpower. Like, what's an amazing thing about your period? And people are like putting things in the Zoom chat, and somebody wrote in there, women can bleed for 5 days and not die.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, but you're kind of missing the point there. And it's when people make comments about this kind of like period shaming and period stigma, like it really like gets under my skin. And I love, like, you know, like debunking those myths, and you know, and talking about it in like, you know, spinning it and putting it in a positive light. I think I get a lot. We get a lot in school with you know, younger girls when it's their first period, or they're just managing, you know, navigating their periods for the first couple of months, and they get really worried about taking part in sport and swimming in particular, and just offering them that compassion to be like, you know what, it's okay, and like, well done for coming to talk to me about it, but let's not be upset about this, because getting your period is really cool, and here's why.
like about swimming, do you find it quite common for girls being introduced to tampons, or like it's less spread in the Philippines?
Yeah, so I have noticed it. Well, we didn't teach swimming in the UK. That's the thing. Like, it was, you know, I'm lucky enough to work at a school that has its own pool now, so we have swimming on the curriculum. But younger girls are worried about it, and I get emails from parents saying like they're not at the stage where they're using tampons yet. So there's an understanding of like, you know, using tampons or, you know, or menstrual cups, like make it more accessible to take part in sport, or swimming in particular.
What are the stigmas that are like, you know, usually?
I think there's just, to be fair, they don't necessarily
is it fear?
I think it's just, I guess it's just that discomfort, and you know, it's not something that they would have, like, it's not an experience, like using a tampon, like inserting a tampon. I remember the first time I used tampons, and I didn't tell it was like my second period, and I was like, this sucks, like I can't swim when I'm on my period, and it's hard, like sanitary towels are really uncomfortable, and I was like, took it upon myself, like being the feminist I was when I was like 12 years old, like, I'm just going to start using tampons. And so went into the bathroom, didn't tell my mum, went and used my mum's tampons.
Yeah.
Like, adult of an adult
I
woman,
did the same,
female
yeah.
tampon, a grown woman's tampons, and of course it was horrifically painful, uncomfortable, and then
Yeah.
like I don't know if I told my sister or my mum, and I was like, so I just tried tampons, they're horrific, I'm never using them again.
Yeah.
And then my mum was like, well, let's get you like some junior ones.
Yeah, slim ones. Yeah,
Yes, that are going to be a little bit more
because they're not
comfortable.
supposed to be filled. Like I'm constantly using tampons, and I'm not even sleeping with tampons,
yeah.
and I don't even feel them.
Yeah.
And like I always tell the guys like who are trying them for the first time, and sometimes you can meet like really. Like you gotta meet adults here, like they never tried a tampon, and I'm like, guys, it's just like you adjust them, you listen to your body again, and like
Yeah.
it should be like seamless.
And that's just it. It's just, I mean, I am very lucky. I have, very open-minded. I have a very good relationship with my mum and my sister, so was able to talk about these things. But even being in that, having that relationship with my mum and my sister, I still didn't feel that comfortable talking about it at the beginning. And yeah, it's actually one of the athletes, when we did the conference, a parent asked her, like, my daughter's really active. She's about to start a period. It's going to be coming in the next year or so. Like, what's a piece of advice that you would give? And she said, teach her about different options for like when you're on your period. So, because she grew up just thinking, okay, it's just pads. That's all I can use. And then, talks to them about tampons and different type of tampons, or using tampons for this, and like there's so many options there.
Yeah, options.
And so just start
important
talking
to
about
know,
it,
yeah.
normalize the conversation, because I'm trying to think of something that like an equal comparison. Like if you buy your first pair of running shoes, you have a conversation about it. What brand? What size? Like,
Yeah.
Do I want something like what's the best running shoe for me? So as a female athlete, what's the best form of menstrual hygiene product for me?
I like this.
That's a
this
good analogy,
is
right?
I like this
That just came
analogy.
off the top of my head.
Write it down. Write it down. Post it in social media, guys.
Yeah.
This is how you choose tampons. But no, it's truly about the like life is all about the options. And getting back to the thing you said about like bleeding, and females bleeding are being able to do things and not die.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. You know? And
like it's it's a sign of health. Like
Yeah.
it's the only time that the human body bleeds, and it's like a good thing. Like
Yeah,
your body's doing the right thing.
I seen another one. It was like something like that. Something like everything I can do, everything you can do to the man, I can do bleeding.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it was like, and I was like reading this, and I was like,
Yeah,
yes.
and it is that, but it's a balance of like, you can ride a horse, you can climb a mountain,
Or you can do that.
or you can sit on your sofa and you can watch Netflix.
You can
and-
even fly into the space. I just recently saw Netflix. Yeah,
Yeah.
I watched this documentary where actually the research somewhere in the 70s in US, and they did this research where like one of the tests that the astronaut has to go through is to like lie down in this water, which is exactly your body temperature, and you sort of don't feel this water around
Yeah,
you,
like weightless.
and you're gonna like you gotta float like this, and it's like weightless, and that's the simulation of the out of Earth experience.
Yeah.
Out of Earth. How is it called? Like the no.
Oh, zero gravity.
Zero gravity, yeah. And so imagine that females are actually more successful, while males, what usually happens, people start to go crazy. They start hallucinate, they start, panic and all of that. And if females are doing great, they are feeling relaxed and wonderful. They could stay up to like 10 hours, kind of like, even fall asleep and wake up. And all of them did well, while male candidates were like going completely crazy. And that means that females are actually much better to go into the space than males. And so far, they're just sending males
Sending
there.
men up there. Yeah, like there's loads of just nuances and differences between males and females, not just from a training perspective, but we don't know about it because all the research participants, majority of the research participants tend to be males. And yeah, I mean, there's so much stuff out there now that's coming out where you're, I'm reading stuff and I was like, oh God, if only I knew this when I was like, in my teenage years or in my early 20s, it just would make such a difference.
Shifting the focus in the right direction. It's
Yeah.
always complicated, like if we're talking about the entire world, and even when I'm speaking about the sustainability of feminine hygiene care, like nobody really ever spoke about it. And like, yeah, like that's a sanitary waste, let's not talk about it. And yeah, I guess. But yeah, I mean, we can finish the podcast with the Tampa Talk Wisdom Blitz with Cassandra Till. No, I was just thinking, like, maybe it's just like to sum it up, all the conversation that we already had. Like, what are the main wisdoms that you can shoot out there for the audience, for the athletes, for people, for men as well? Like, yeah.
Yeah, I think the more that you can learn about yourself, like the more you're going to love yourself and understand it. And I think, that for me, the journey I've been on over the past coming up to like 5 years now, is just learning like what my body can do, and then it's just given me such a bigger appreciation for it. And just the more you know about yourself, the more you can love it and look after it.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's good. I mean, I gotta just like look inside, and we guys gonna look inside and appreciate ourselves daily, and don't push ourselves to the limit. Otherwise, we end up burned out. And I guess that's a great takeaway of our conversation today with Cassandra. And like what I would say, definitely, if you have more questions and you're training or you're trying to get into sports, which is again like a massive thing, how do we start, how do we get there, or maybe like the tips on the first steps, or how do we start tracking our cycles and sync it with our life. I guess this is something that you can direct to Cassandra directly in her Instagram, maybe, which we can put it here or there. I am not sure that it's there, but it's going to appear on the screen. So follow Cassandra, and you can ask her some questions, as well as us as well on Tampon Instagram page. And I guess, we're going to be getting back with more episodes. And thank you so much for your attention and intention that coming here, learning new things. And we're very happy to have you, and very happy to have you, Cassandra, too. And I hope that you enjoyed, and, subscribe and all that stuff. Have a great day. Bye.
Take care.